7 words. That is all he had. 7 words spoken by a 6-year-old boy standing alone in the middle of Miami at 11 o'clock at night. Mommy dropped me off and left me. No address. No last name. No explanation. Just 7 words that cracked open one of the most disturbing child neglect cases this city has ever documented. And while that little boy stood in the dark, crossing busy streets, trying to pull open the doors of strangers' cars, his mother was not looking for him. She was not calling hospitals. She was not panicking. According to court documents, she went to work. She went out. She came home between 3 and 4 in the morning. And she never checked on her son. She went to sleep. She did not find out her child was missing until the Department of Children and Families called her. Not that night. Not the next morning when she woke up. When they called her, nearly 12 hours after her son had already been found. 12 hours. This is the story nobody told you in full. And we are not stopping until you have every single piece of it. If this is your first time here, welcome to Darkness of Beneath Crimes. Hit that subscribe button right now because we go places other channels do not dare to go. Stay with me. Do not leave, because what comes next gets significantly worse. Let us go back to the beginning. April 8, 2026. Miami, Florida. The Alapata neighborhood. Northwest 7th Avenue and Northwest 17th Street. It is just before 11:15 at night. This is not a quiet street. This is not a residential cul-de-sac where kids ride bikes on summer afternoons. This is a dense, traffic-heavy urban intersection in one of Miami's most active neighborhoods. Cars move fast here. Strangers move faster. And right there, alone in the middle of all of it, was a child. A 6-year-old boy. No adult. No supervision. Wandering the sidewalk, crossing the street, reaching up to try to open the doors of cars driven by people he had never met. Think about that image. Hold it. A 6-year-old boy. Pulling on strangers' car doors. After 11 at night. In Miami. Miami police officer Mike Vega would later describe what could have happened in that intersection in 2 devastating sentences. He said there were cars traveling out there. He said the child could have been hit or picked up by a predator. Those are not speculative warnings. That is a police spokesman telling the public how close this boy came to never being found alive. But someone saw him, and that someone changed everything. Now pay attention here, because this is the part of this story that no headline gave the space it deserved. The man who found that little boy was not a police officer. He was not a social worker. He had no training, no badge, and no legal obligation to stop. He was a man named Arnett Johnson. Arnett Johnson had been sleeping on a bench in Miami's Alapata neighborhood for 6 months after serving time in prison. He had his own survival to manage, his own battles, his own reality that most people who walk past a man on a bench refuse to acknowledge. But just before midnight on April 8th, something made him look up. Johnson had been living on that bench since his release from prison about 6 months prior. Accustomed to the unpredictability of street life, he decided to investigate rather than ignore what he saw. He first scanned the area to see if any caregiver might be close by, but quickly concluded the boy was on his own. No parent, no guardian, no adult anywhere nearby. Johnson then contacted law enforcement and stayed with the 6-year-old until officers arrived, ensuring the child remained safe in the meantime. He stayed. He did not walk away. He did not assume someone else would handle it. He called. And he waited. In the dark. On that street. With a frightened little boy he had never met. When reporters asked him about it later, Johnson said something that will stay with you long after this video ends. God sent me there. I had to do what God say to do. He added, anybody would have done the same thing I did. No, Arnett. Not everybody did. In a city of nearly 500,000 people, on a busy Miami street after 11 at night, you were the one who stopped. You were the one who called. You were the one who stayed. A man with no home, who gave a child the one thing that mattered that night: his presence. Let that breathe for a second. When officers arrived and approached the boy, they quickly understood this situation was going to take time. The boy was delayed in speech and may be on the autism spectrum. He was frightened. He was confused. He was standing under city streetlights after midnight, trying to find words for something no child should ever have to explain. When police took the boy into their care, he reportedly told them, "Mommy dropped me off and left me." Officers also noted the child has a speech delay, which made it difficult to immediately gather identifying details about him or his family. They tried everything. They asked his name. They asked his mother's name. They asked where he lived. They asked what school he went to. They asked who else was in the car. He could not give them enough. Not because he was being difficult, because he was 6 years old with a speech delay, doing the absolute most he was capable of in an impossible situation. Police tried to identify the little boy, but could not. So they put out a flyer with his picture and asked the community to help them find his parents. They searched the surrounding apartment complexes. They knocked on doors. They rode elevators to the 5th floor of buildings in the area, hoping something the boy said would lead them to a door they recognized. Nothing. The boy, who was not publicly identified, was placed with the Florida Department of Children and Families. He went to sleep in the custody of the state. Not in his own bed. Not in his mother's arms. In the arms of strangers appointed by the government to keep him safe because nobody who was supposed to be looking for him was looking. 4 hours. Police searched for roughly 4 hours that night and found no trace of his mother. 4 hours. But wait, because right now you are probably asking the same question that every person who heard about this case asked first. Where was she? Where was this mother while her son was being placed in state care? I need you to stay with me, because what I am about to tell you is not speculation. This comes directly from her own statement to detectives. This is what she said happened. According to the court documents and arrest affidavit, here is the timeline Annie Rivera gave to police. She finished a job at a studio in Miami at around 8:20 in the evening. She and her son took a Lyft ride back to the apartment where they were staying. They both took a Lyft back home and arrived at around 8:30 p.m. Rivera then tucked her son into bed, took a shower, and got ready to leave and meet a friend. Stop right there. She put her son to bed. That part you already know. What you need to understand is what happened next, because this is where the timeline becomes unbearable. She further told detectives that she got into a Lyft and was dropped off at 11:04 p.m., 6 minutes before her son was found wandering the street. 6 minutes. She was being dropped off somewhere in Miami at 11:04. Her son was already in that intersection at 11:10, already alone, already trying to open strangers' car doors, already the subject of a 911 call from a man sleeping on a bench. 6 minutes separated her Lyft drop-off from her son being found in the street. And she did not know. After hanging out with a friend, she then went to another job and returned home between 3 and 4 a.m. Police said she did not check to see if her son was sleeping when she got in. She did not check. She walked through that door between 3 and 4 in the morning. She passed the place where that child was supposed to be sleeping. She did not look. She did not check. She went to sleep. And when morning came, she said she thought her roommate took her son to school. But Rivera did not ask nor coordinate with her roommate to take the boy to school. An assumption about a 6-year-old with a speech delay who may be on the autism spectrum. She assumed. But it gets heavier. Stay with me, because there is a layer to this case that the headlines buried completely. And it is the layer that makes the entire story feel different once you know it. Right here at the middle of this story, I need you to do one thing. If this investigation is landing the way it should, if you feel the weight of what this child went through that night, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Darkness of Beneath Crimes. We go this deep on every single case. Every single week. You do not want to miss what comes next. The living situation. Police found Rivera at a nearby apartment where she was reportedly living with a friend named Stephanie while trying to save money for her own place. Stephanie said Rivera and her son were not home when she went to bed at 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday. So when Stephanie closed her eyes that night, neither the mother nor the child were in the apartment. Then, hours later, she heard the door open. She claimed that she heard the door open at 11:30 p.m. and assumed it was Rivera and her child returning home. She assumed they both came back. Rivera came back. The boy did not. And nobody noticed until morning. The roommate allegedly said she saw Rivera sleeping in her bed the next morning but not her child, but she just assumed the boy was with his godmother. 2 adults. 1 apartment. 1 missing child. And not a single alarm raised. Then the morning came. And this is the exchange that defined the entire case. Stephanie called Rivera after police contacted her. Rivera said, "I thought you took him to school this morning." And Stephanie replied, "You didn't ask me. I know I didn't take him to school." No conversation. No plan. No confirmation. No one had made sure that little boy was safe before the lights went out. And here is the detail that no one in the original reporting gave enough attention to. As authorities looked into her, they found she had a Department of Children and Families case from 2025 involving allegations of inadequate supervision. 2025, a full calendar year before this night. There was already a file. Already a documented concern. Already a red flag sitting in a government database with this family's name on it. And yet here we are. At what point does a pattern become evidence? At what point does evidence become accountability? At what point does accountability become a criminal charge? Florida law has an answer. Under Florida statute, child neglect may be based on a single incident that results in, or could reasonably be expected to result in, serious physical injury or a substantial risk of death to a child. A 6-year-old with a speech delay and possible autism. Alone. After 11 at night. Crossing traffic. Reaching for strangers' car door handles in Miami. That is not just a risk. That is a miracle he survived it. Around 10:30 a.m. on Thursday, a representative from Miami-Dade Public Schools called cops and helped them identify the boy and gave them contact information for his mother. Rivera was tracked down to a nearby apartment complex, just down the street and less than a mile from where the boy was found. Less than a mile. Her son had been sleeping in state custody less than a mile from her door. It wasn't until the Department of Children and Families called her at 10:30 a.m. Thursday, nearly 12 hours since the boy was found, that she was aware that her son was lost. Nearly 12 hours. She found out through a phone call. Not through a frantic search. Not through a sleepless night of calling every hospital in Miami. A phone call. Rivera was detained by officers at the apartment about an hour after they learned she was the mother. And when detectives sat down with her, she did not deflect. She did not perform outrage. The defendant took full responsibility and admitted it was her fault, cops wrote. She owned it. Completely. And that is exactly what makes this case more complicated than any headline wanted to admit. Because the question that has been tearing this community apart since the moment this story broke is not a simple one. Is this a criminal? Or is this a mother who was grinding through multiple jobs to survive, who made a catastrophic assumption, and who will spend the rest of her life carrying the weight of that one night? The law draws a line, and the state of Florida decided she crossed it. 2 days after that night, Annie Rivera stood before Miami-Dade Circuit Court Judge Mindy Glazer. And what happened in that courtroom stopped everyone who watched it. The mother, 30-year-old Annie Rivera, shed tears as she listened to Miami-Dade Circuit Court Judge Mindy Glazer. The judge asked her directly where her child was. Rivera, weeping, replied, "He's with DCF. I saw that on the county calendar yesterday." A county calendar? She found out through a court listing. Judge Glazer told a crying Rivera, "Right now, you have got to get it together. There was inadequate supervision, and there is probable cause, and there are services for you, and you are likely to use them." She was issued a $2,500 bond by Miami-Dade Circuit Court Judge Mindy Glazer and has been released from jail with the stipulation that she can have no unsupervised contact with her son. Glazer ordered that Rivera have no unsupervised contact with her son, subject to what is ordered in dependency court. She must only have supervised contact and cannot be violent or threatening in any manner whatsoever. She pleaded not guilty. And as of the most recent court records available, a guardian ad litem has been assigned to this case. That is a neutral legal party whose sole purpose is to determine what is in the best interest of this little boy going forward. His future is now being decided by a courtroom, not by his mother, not by his family, by a judge and a neutral appointee who has never met him. He is 6 years old. And strangers are deciding his future. Now let us bring it all the way back to the beginning, to a bench on Northwest 7th Avenue, to a man who had nothing. A little boy was alone wandering a crime-riddled Miami street that night, but he was found by someone most people walk right past. Arnett Johnson, a man who had been sleeping on a bench for 6 months, a man fresh out of prison. A man the world had largely decided was invisible. He was the one person on that street that night who refused to look away. This was a good Samaritan that was sleeping in the streets and called us and gave us that information. You know, kudos to him. We don't know what could have happened to this child if he would have remained out in the street, Officer Vega told reporters. We don't know what would have happened. Think about that phrase. From a police spokesman. We don't know. That is not a reassurance. That is a reckoning. Because across this city, across this country, there are children in situations like this one who are not found. There is no Arnett Johnson on every block. There is no bench in every intersection. There is no man who wakes up and decides to look twice. That little boy got lucky in the most devastating possible sense of that word. And now a courtroom is deciding what his life looks like from here. The case is still active. The outcome is still unwritten. And that child is still waiting. This is the case that demands to be remembered. Not just as a headline, not just as an arrest record, but as the full human story that it is. A struggling mother, a vulnerable child, a system that had already flagged this family once before. And one man sleeping on a bench who was, for whatever reason, exactly where he needed to be. God sent me there, he said. Maybe he did. That little boy went to sleep in a stranger's arms that night. And somewhere in Miami, a courtroom is still deciding what that means. We will be there when it does. This is darkness of beneath crimes. If this story hit you the way it should, if you watched every second of this and felt it in your chest, then you already know this channel is different. Subscribe. Hit that like button. Leave a comment below with what you think the court should decide in this case. We read every single one. We do not skim the surface here. We go beneath it. Every time. See you in the next one.